Hi, this is Ed from Exotic Blanks, welcoming you to the turning section of the Cholla blank. We will actually be creating the pen today. Here is the blank. It has now got the tube in it. We've already done the video on drilling this blank, so if you missed that, go back and take a look because that helps. This is how you got it drilled into the center. And now I'm removing some of the glue and other junk that gets into the brass tube. And in this case, there was a fair amount of CA glue stuck in there, so I did do a pretty good job of CAing the inside of that blank because I like to reinforce as much as possible before I start these things. The Cholla is sometimes very porous. Now this one turned out not to be very porous. It turned out to be very much like wood, but an ounce of prevention is worth 10 pounds of screwing around with it later. Now it's on the lathe, as you can see, and I'm turning, find out here in a second, at a relatively slow speed. And we start with a sharp 1-inch skew, and I'm taking off the ends first, and now I realize the speed's too slow, so I turned up the speed. And now things are starting to work out better. So as you can see, just take off the ends first. That's usually the way that I approach any blank. Let's just get the ends somewhere near the bushings. They don't have to be down to the bushings, but that way if anything should come off of the blank, if a chunk comes off the blank, it rarely will go below the amount that you have turned off. So basically if it breaks, it tends to break to the level of the next part of the blank. So if you get it down so it's real low like that, it will generally not make the blank unusable. As you can see, it's all coming off in ribbons. It's not very difficult to turn this. As you can see, it's starting to look pretty good. This is a good angle to see the Cholla there that really does look a lot like normal wood. As I said before, this is different from many other Cholla blanks that I have done in the past. Usually they are pretty porous, and so this is kind of probably not necessary on this one, but it's an idea that works very well when you put some thin CA on the blank and let it soak in and actually reinforce that Cholla. That way you have a better chance of it not flying off when you're trying to turn it. As you can see, what I'm doing here is I use a sponge. I use sponges all the time, but use it behind there to try to put an even coating of the thin CA on the blank, and turn it at a relatively slow speed so that it doesn't fly all over the room. Once you've had it on there for a few seconds, it isn't a bad idea to hit it with some accelerator. If you do that, make sure that your accelerator is 8 to 10 inches away from the blank. If you hit it with accelerator and it drips, you actually do more harm than good, I believe. But at the same time, there was a break here, and I added my dust collection, kind of. It's a kind of a primitive system, but it did take the smell away. The CA, when you put it on there, really is intense, and it's a good idea to try to get it out of. It's not going to hurt you. CA is not going to do any damage. You can inhale it. It really doesn't make any difference. It is not arsenic. It is not cyanide. All the things that I've heard about CA over the years, no, it's none of those things. It is just irritating. So we're continuing to turn here, and actually you can see it doesn't look like the CA even penetrated through this far. It was really a nice piece of Cholla on this one. Okay, the main purpose of what I'm trying to do here is get close to the bushings and get it so that it's close to the point where I can do the facing. Remember, these ends are not yet square to the blank. So you'll see here we take it off of the lathe now because it's down far enough that you can see where the level should be with the brass tube and how much I have to take off by sanding this. That's about that much on that side. Is probably 1/8 of an inch and a little less on the other side. So the next thing I'm going to do is set it up for doing the sanding, and that is a Jacob's chuck on the left hand, to your left hand side, with a punch in it that's the same diameter approximately as the inside of that tube. And then I have a sandpaper attached to a 1-inch dowel that I put into the headstock in the scroll chuck, and that's what we're doing there. We're just taking it off. You can see now it reflects the light off the brass. If you look at the top and bottom of it, it's reflecting light. So I've actually taken off just enough that I've touched the brass, and that will mean that when I'm doing the rest of my turning, the wood and the cholla Now I'm once again reinforcing this with CA. That's thin CA and a sponge. That's one of my favorite ways of putting it on. It keeps it off my fingers, and it also puts it on very evenly. A sponge won't allow you to put it on too heavy in any one spot. And you can see I'm spraying a little bit of accelerant on it. If you choose to spray accelerant on it, which isn't a bad idea, but make sure that you stay 8 to 10 inches away from the blank, and that way you will get a spritz or a spray on your blank rather than drips, and drips are not good. The spray will do a good job. It isn't really necessary to use accelerant. If you're not taking pictures, you just take a couple of seconds and let everything soak in. That's fine too. Now we're trying to actually get very close on the ends, because this is now been trimmed and you now have it to the finished size that it's going to be. So now it becomes kind of important to get down to the bushings. Because I'm pretty comfortable with the skew, I don't mind doing it this way. You might find that it's better for you not to go quite that close, particularly on early versions of your turning these cholla blanks. You can always take a little bit off with sandpaper and not take the chance of catching. My hole is dead center in this, and part of this is, if you're centered, it helps a great deal. You're much less likely to have issues, but not all of us have the equipment to drill perfectly every time. I'm pretty lucky with what I have. So that's pretty much all there is to it. You're going to see very quickly here that I've ended this, and I'll go to the sanding and so forth in the next video. But here's what it looks like at this point. From here we're going to put a CA coating on it, and it will turn into the pen that you're about to see. And just there it is, the pen that is the cholla and red pen blank. Thanks for watching. This is Ed. Have a good day.